Live from Citizen TV, this is the Monday.
Yes, this is the Monday Report with Olive Burrows and Emmanuel Ndongo. You know, Emmanuel, it's that time of year when you're never quite sure what day it is.
I know.
Yeah, so
today's Monday. The Monday Report. And considering we've been doing a few days in a row,
yeah,
you can't mix up the days.
Yo.
Yes.
How is Anthony Joshua?
He escaped with minor injuries, the reports are saying at the moment. British boxing heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua was involved in a road accident in Nigeria. Unfortunately, a couple occupants of the car did not make it. They passed, but it seems he was okay.
All right, that's tragic after his triumph over Jake Paul. In fact, he has now become the main attraction of boxing for my gender. On a light note.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But actually, you are late to the show, though.
I am.
You are very late to the show. But yeah, he's been that, yeah. All
right. So we need to get into the highlights. But one thing you definitely want to stay tuned for is Emmanuel To's My Story. Quite literally, akona story za jaba. Today, I learned what taxing is. If you don't know what taxing is, you'll want to stay tuned. Emmanuel, be Googling.
Yeah, I will be.
Yeah, I don't want to ambush you with that one. If you know what taxing means, let us know. The handles are at O Barrows.
And mine is Emmanuel ND. We've got that this
time. At Citizen TV Kenya, the hashtag is Citizen Monday Report, the highlights.
We are confused. Tunashindwa what is happening. Wakam clean, they tell us what is really happening.
Protests in new Mukuru housing estate. Residents protest against delayed relocation funds 6 months after moving into new houses.
The tear gas, the bullets will not silence us. It will not silence us. In fact, it will make our voices as loud as possible.
Kibiko land controversy. Parties to the dispute refuse to cede ground as police step up vigilance.
Sisi kama serikali, we will do the needful to investigate, and the forensic investigation is already on. We will leave no stone unturned.
Jirongo death puzzle. Police service pledges to intensify investigations. Covering the last journey of a political titan in Kenya, a reporter's account. Emmanuel and myself are joined by Belinda Phillips as our sign language interpreter. Residents of the new Mukuru housing estate staged protests over delays in the release of their relocation facilitation funds 6 months after moving into their new homes. Each household was expected to receive 30,000 shillings as a relocation allowance to help them settle. However, many residents say the money is yet to be disbursed, raising fears that they may be shortchanged. Monday morning, some residents pitched camp outside the affordable housing project offices in Upper Hill, Nairobi, demanding answers and immediate action. Emily Chebet kicks us off on the Monday Report.
A section of residents from New Mukuru Housing Estate staged a peaceful protest outside this building, which houses SEPU, a government agency they say is mandated to pay their relocation facilitation fees. According to the residents, the initial relocation package was set at 150,000 Kenya shillings, later negotiated down to 75,000 Kenya shillings before a final agreement was reached at 30,000 Kenya shillings per household, an amount they say is yet to be paid.
Tunatoka 75 sasa iko 30. Sababu ya nini? Mko na nyumba pande ile na wote wenye mnatoka Mukuru ama Marigoini mmepewa makao yenu pande ile nyingine. Si mtapata nyumba siku na wenye wamepata siku na wenye hawajapata lakini pia watapata. So tunashukuru na hiyo. Usuri nyumba tunasiona wataingia. But tukaambiwa sasa mtapata 30. Tukasema sawa hiyo 30 mtu ataenda para ajipange nayo.
The residents say only a few people have so far received the money 6 months after moving into their new homes. According to the residents, Housing Principal Secretary Charles Hinga had promised that the relocation funds will be disbursed before Christmas, a pledge they say is yet to be fully honored.
Kuna mtu anaitwa Muri, somebody Muri, ndiye anasimamia hii blog ya SEP. Tukampigia simu tukiwa na meeting hapo kwa estate yetu ndani. Akasema pesa mimi nafikiri ilitoka kitambo hata watu wasaka kula hiyo pesa.
Some residents who are yet to receive the relocation funds say they are stranded following the demolition of their former homes. They await allocation of the newly launched units.
President alikuja akalonje nyumba phase 2, lakini tujapata bado nyumba hata ufungua hatukupewa. So kijiji imepomolewa, tunanyeshewa mvua na watoto.
Wakasema Christmas tutakula tukiwa ndani ya hizo nyumba. Sasa tumekulia nje Christmas.
Niko na watu kwa nyumba yangu, watu watatu wamekuja kukaa kwangu, hawana mahali pa kwenda kwa sababu hawajapewa ile facilitation ya kuwawezesha waende watafute nyumba ingine, wakiongojea hizo nyumba ingine siku tayari.
According to the residents, a section of them is still waiting for the government to furnish their houses, following an agreement deposited by a lawyer that allows the cost of furnishings to be paid in installments.
Tumambwa ni za loan, so we have to pay 400 on top of rent yenye tunafaa tulipe. Being that tunalipa hiyo 400, inamaanisha ulichukuliwa offer letter yako, kuna mali ulisign, unaletewa vitu. So huwezi enda ununue vitu zingine until wakamu wa deliver whatever mulikuwa mumeagree na wao.
Affordable Housing Board Chief Executive Officer Sheila Waweru, speaking to Citizen TV on phone, said the payment process is underway and that all eligible residents are expected to receive the funds by next week. However, the CEO noted that residents who have not remitted their monthly contributions for the housing units will have their arrears deducted from their relocation facilitation funds. Emily Chebet, Citizen TV.
6 fishermen have died following 2 separate boat accidents in Lake Victoria, Siaya County. The first incident occurred at Sanda Beach, where 5 fishermen drowned after their boat capsized in Lake Victoria. The bodies of the 2 fishermen have been taken to Got Agulu Sub-County morgue, while recovery efforts for the remaining 3 continue. 7 fishermen were on board. In the second incident, it was reported at Mageta Beach and involved 1 fisherman. Residents of Kibiko in Kajiado West are living in fear following violent clashes over a disputed piece of land that led to the death of a police officer, even as tens of local residents were left nursing injuries. The incident drawing condemnation and the attention of local leaders and security forces alike. Leaders who attempted to intervene in the ongoing land demarcation process were tear-gassed by police officers under the command of deputy county commissioners. This latest escalation is part of a long-running battle over land ownership in the area. Jimmy Mbogo spent the day inside the disputed area and filed this report.
The quiet neighborhood of Kibiko in Ngong, Kajiado County is not at ease. There is heavy police deployment characterized by numerous police roadblocks in and around the disputed 2,800 acres piece of land. Local leaders attempting to intervene and make their way to the disputed land were forced to scatter for safety after police lobbed tear gas to stop them from addressing the media and the crowd that gathered. Some residents have been forced to run away from the region for their safety.
The way we leaders, myself as governor, being denied to go to a part of Kajiado that is not gazetted as a security zone is telling. The tear gassing of leaders who are going peacefully to see their people is very worrying.
They were all there listening, and suddenly they started throwing tear gas at us. Let me tell you, those tear gas, the bullets will not silence us. Yes. It will not silence us. In fact, it will make our voices as loud as possible, because we must know what is the root cause of this.
Where I'm currently standing, this is part of the expansive 2,800 acres parcel of land right in the eye of a storm, with 2 factions of the Kikonyiki Community Trust pulling in different directions. directions. Some support the ongoing demarcation, while others who could not speak on camera say the possibility of a pipeline expansion that may lead to compensation is the reason behind the recent push for land subdivision, arguing that those opposed to the subdivision lost fairly.
Ile timu ingine ndio analeta furugu juu ya kushindwa, na sijui sasa wako na interest gani na hii shamba.
Wale wanataka biko liwekwe ni wale wako na haki. Wale wanakataa biko siwekwe ni wale wa kwamba hao walikuwa wameuza na ni wakaaji hapa ndio wanapinga biko siwekwe kwa sababu walikuwa wameuza kabla haijawekwa biko.
Wametupiga na tia gas wameingia sasa wanataka kukata hii shamba wakatie wale watu si wa hapa.
Leaders in the area have vowed not to relent in their fight against alleged land grabbing, with some accusing powerful individuals of orchestrating the illegal seizure of land. In a dramatic turn of events, an administrator has been accused of being a beneficiary of the land, further fueling suspicion that the dispute may be a result of corruption at the highest level. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale has rejected calls by the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi to have a referendum on the Constitution alongside the 2027 general election, saying the push could lead to unnecessary tension in the country. This comes as President William Ruto's personal aide, Faruk Kibet, supported the move to change the Constitution, saying it will bring equity in development in the country. Slamming those, he says, are holding on to the status quo. Emmanuel To has more.
The sentiments by the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi on a proposal to hold a constitutional referendum alongside the 2027 general polls continues to elicit mixed reactions, with his cabinet colleague, Health CS Aden Duale, rejecting the move. Duale, who took to his X platform Monday, said the plan to change the Constitution before Supreme Court advisory on the pending delimitation of boundaries would be creating avoidable tension rather than providing solutions. The Health CS continues to say that on issues such as entrenching development funds and implementing the 2/3 gender rule, Parliament is already engaging these matters through ongoing legislative processes that include public participation. Calling for a referendum on matters currently under parliamentary consideration may inadvertently undermine these lawful processes and create unnecessary uncertainty. Duale also argues that Kenya currently lacks a comprehensive law governing how a referendum should be conducted, maintaining that without such a legal framework, moving toward an immediate referendum will be premature and potentially disruptive. The CS concluding that there is no looming constitutional storm. This comes as retired Chief Justice and presidential hopeful David Maraga termed the plan to change the Constitution as a plot to extend President William Ruto's term in office beyond 2032. Maraga stating, quote, "Kenya does not have a constitutional crisis. We have a crisis of implementation and a deficit of integrity. We do not need a new constitution. We need leaders who respect the one we already have." President William Ruto's aide Faruk Kibet launched a pushback on those who opposed the changes, terming them retrogressive.
Wazo ya Mudavadi ilikuwa wazo mzuri, kwamba tuangalie maeneo ambayo imesalia nyuma, siangaliwe. Hao wanabadilisha, wanasema Ruto anataka utawala. Utawala gani? 10 years is enough kwa president wowote ambaye anataka kiti. Is enough. Na kwanza kiti inaombwa, ama inapeanwa tu ovyo ovyo.
Emmanuel To, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Tonight, private investigators hired by the family of the late former Lugari Member of Parliament, Cyrus Jirongo, have made damning revelations, raising fresh questions about the circumstances surrounding his death. The findings claim that Jirongo was not alone in the vehicle at the time of the accident. The family is now demanding answers, even as the government reaffirms its commitment to fast-track investigations into the road accident that claimed the former Member of Parliament's life. Deputy Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli says detectives are deploying all available methods to establish the truth behind the crash, urging Kenyans to remain patient and avoid speculation. Milito Letenges reports.
Also coming to us today.
A second funeral service for the late Lugari MP Cyrus Jirongo was held at his home in Mailisaba, Kitale, Trans Nzoia County on Monday. Speaking at the ceremony, Deputy Inspector General Gilbert Masengeli assured the nation that the government is fully committed to conducting a thorough, transparent and speedy investigation into the fatal accident, asking Kenyans to avoid speculation.
Sisi kama serikali, we will do the needful to investigate, and the forensic investigation is already on. We will leave no stone unturned till we get the facts. And we should not speculate about anything, because technology will not lie.
However, the late Jirongo's close associates called on police to move with speed, revealing that the family has already engaged private investigators to independently establish the cause of the crash, and that the private investigators had revealed that Jirongo was not alone in the vehicle.
Kuna wachunguzi wa kibinafsi ambao nilikuwa naona ripoti yao jana usiku. Wanasema pia gari hilo lilipoonekana kwenye vyombo vya CCTV kule Naivasha lilikuwa na watu wawili wameketi mbele. Nyuso hazionekani, lakini linaonyesha kuna watu wawili wameketi, so hakuwa peke yake. So mbona kwa ajali ambayo inasemekana ikaja alikuwa peke yake?
Ukiona watu wanaenda mpaka wanasema watatoa tochi, ati sasa wanafikiri polisi wameshindwa na kazi, sasa tutumie tochi. Hii tochi itaweza kama polisi hawawezi?
Huyu mwenda zake aliongolea umoja wa jamii Asaya Mulembe. Tumepoteza, ndiyo umepoteza kama familia, lakini sisi pia tumepoteza.
Family members, friends and mourners remembered the late Jirongo as a visionary, hard-working leader whose contribution to society has left a lasting impact.
It is very hard for me to imagine that we shall not hold discussions over farming, over politics, over the family. It is very hard. Yet, we must move on.
Cyrus was the cohesive factor in this home. He was the unifying force, and he wanted his family to remain family together.
The late Cyrus Jirongo will be laid to rest on Tuesday at his home in Lumakanda, Lugari Sub-County, Kakamega County. Melita Oletenges, Citizen TV.
Residents of Konoin in Bomet County stormed and shut down the Teacher Service Commission offices in Konoin Sub-County over allegations of corruption. They claim officials serving in the office have been soliciting money from locals seeking teaching jobs. Citizen TV's Miriam Nyambura reports.
Dozens of angry residents arrived at the TSC offices in Konoin, Bomet County on Monday, demanding answers over money they say they paid in exchange for employment.
Tuliambiwa kuna forms ya kuchasa ya TSC. Niliposikia hivyo nikaamua nikatafuta pesa. Nikaitishwa 400,000. Na nikaenda kuchasa form kwa sub-county Mogogoshego fees through the director.
According to the teachers, when word on the job opportunities went round, they were invited to interact with officials from the Konoin TSC office before being asked to make payments.
Huyo rafiki aliniambia kuna barua. Tukaenda tukambata huyo mtu mwenye alikuwa na barua Mogogoshe. Tukaenda kwa hoteli fulani. Tukaenda kuchasa. Director pia yeye alikuwa anatusaidia kuchasa. Tukambea pesa, nakaenda.
The P1 teachers say they graduated more than 7 years ago but have remained jobless. Many claim it's been 6 months since they filled the forms and paid the money, yet they don't have the jobs. They are now appealing to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to fast-track investigations into the fraudulent activities at TSC.
Niliambiwa anataka 400,000 ndio nikaomba. Niliomba ni wa different people. Mwingine alinipea 150, mwingine akakopa loan, ndio akanipea. Sasa hiyo loan wenye waliomba loan ndio wanakatwa.
TSC County Director William Yator has stated that investigations are underway.
Each TSC teacher anaambiwa leta 400,000, leta 500,000 na kuna evidence ya kutosha. Sababu wengine wamelipa through M-Pesa, wengine wamelipa through na wengine wamedocumentiwa wakipeana pesa. Pesa ambayo imekolektiwa hapa ni more than 20 million Kenya shillings ambayo imeenda kwa mfuko ya watu.
Meanwhile, Area Police Commander Mohamed Godana noted that no formal complaints have been received so far. Miriam Nyambura, Citizen TV.
Environment and human rights activists on Monday clashed with the police in Kilifi as they protested the ongoing clearing of the Watamu Public Park for construction of affordable housing units in spite of a court order blocking activity on the land until parties involved in the case are heard in court. The residents and activists accuse local leaders of pushing for the construction of the housing units on the only public space in the town. The activists say they will not relent until the construction that has already seen the park cleared is moved elsewhere. Come on, Mwangi, with more.
Armed with orders from Justice Mongi Njoroge of the Malindi High Court issued on Christmas Eve, stopping activity on the 3.5-acre Watamu Public Park already earmarked for the construction of affordable housing units. Environment and human rights activists who are opposed to the construction on Monday gathered at the park, plastering copies of the court orders on the site's perimeter wall after it was discovered that the government had proceeded with the clearing of the construction site despite the court's orders. The protest at one point almost getting physical as police denied the activists entry to the park, having threatened to force their way to stop activity that was underway.
The police are protecting the violation of a court order. How can they do that? Police are not respecting the law. Police are not respecting the court order. And this is unacceptable.
Ikiwa hii development itaendelea hapa bila kusitishwa, sisi wananchi, watetezi wa haki za kibinadamu na wananchi wa Watamu, tutakulazimisha OCS ustopishe hawa watu kuendelea na hili zoezi haramu.
The residents accused local leadership of ignoring numerous concerns raised by the public and trying to force construction in the park that is the only public space in Kilifi County and which also hosts the area chief and his assistant's offices.
Watamu is very big. Watamu is very big. It does not only necessarily mean it is supposed to be here. Kuna sehemu nyingi ambazo tungewaonyesha na mradi ukafanya nini? Ukaendelea. We are not here to oppose it, but we are only concerned because as citizens we have our rights. And one of the rights is the right to be heard.
Your work is to protect the community, and what you're doing here is going against the community. Stand together with the community. Help the community protect their park.
The park that had 300 neem trees with some as old as 35 years has been cleared. The order barring any activity on the land expires on the 7th of January when all parties are expected in court. Kamau Mwangi, Citizen TV.
The family of a 14-year-old boy, Benjamin Mainge Siombua, is asking for help to trace him after he disappeared from home 3 days ago. This followed a conversation during which his parents informed him that they could not afford to send him to the secondary school he'd been admitted to because of the high cost of tuition. Ode Francis with a full report.
Benjamin Mainge, a 14-year-old student, had recently completed his JCI examinations at Kaitheri Primary School in Kerugoya. He went to collect his results and his teacher confirmed to his mother that he had indeed arrived and received them.
Alitoka huku on Tuesday, siku ya Jumanne. Alikuwa anaendea Lisauti at Kaitheri Primary School. Enye aliendea alitoka huko kama kitu saa 2 na akafika shule vizuri, lakini kutoka aende anja rudi kutoka Tuesday. Alifika shule na akachukua, lakini hapo anjulikani alienda wapi mpaka wa leo.
According to his family, Benjamin had been promised that he would be enrolled in a secondary school that was within their financial means. However, it is suspected that the parents' decision may have deeply upset him.
Kupenda kwetu hata tungejua kikosa kumpeleka atapotea, tungetafuta njia nyingine.
Alikuwa amechukulia shule mzuri na tukamwambia tutampeleka shule moja. Although hakuwa ameipenda. Nimekuwa na wasiwasi sana kwa maana hata silali, hata kukula inanishinda. Kwa maana si kawaida mbeni kuenda. Si kawaida kukua kijana yangu anaenda na ajui hata mamangu ako anje. Mimi niko na stress sana na yeye. Niko na stress za kumtafuta nimuone tu akiwa mzima.
For a week now, the family has searched for him without success.
Lakini sasa tunamuomba mahali yako asikie. Tafadhali kwa upendo wa Mungu arudi nyumbani. Tunamngojea, tunampenda, hakuna mtu atamuuliza hata swali hata yoyote.
Meanwhile, students who sat the JCEA exams are expected to begin reporting to their respective secondary schools starting January 12th, even as anxiety over Benjamin Maingi's whereabouts continues to grow. Ode Francis, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
The family of the former Chief Executive Officer of the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital, Dr. George Rai, is appealing for help to raise 20 million shillings to clear a medical bill accrued while he was receiving treatment in South Korea. Dr. Rai, who was currently serving as a health advisor for the Kisumu County Department of Medical Services, is reported to have fallen ill while on a work-related tour in the East Asian country and died while receiving treatment. His body cannot be repatriated back home until the bill is paid in full. Safina Chengoma reports on the agony of a family that is stuck while in mourning.
Until his death, Dr. George Rai served as the head of partnerships and resource mobilization for the Kisumu County Department of Medical Services. According to the family, Dr. Rai left for a work-related tour to South Korea on 30th of November 2025.
George Rai was not sick. George Rai was well, and that is why he was part of a county delegation to Korea.
The family says that this picture was taken on 4th December 2025, a few minutes before Dr. Rai suddenly fell ill.
They were on a tour, I'm told, of the Parliament building, and when they were coming out, as he was getting into the bus, he fell suddenly, was breathless, emergency services were called, and he was taken to a nearby hospital.
Dr. Rai was admitted in the intensive care unit at two main hospitals in South Korea before he succumbed on 26th of December 2025 at around 7 p.m. Kenyan time. His family is now facing the nightmare of raising about 20 million shillings to offset the medical bill and the daily mortuary charges before they can bring his body back home.
The costs kept accumulating. The county wasn't clear on what the extent of responsibility they will take. The bill was amounting to over 17 million Kenya shillings, out of which some money had been paid, about 3 million out of the money that KMA had sent and the family had sent to Korea.
Before joining the county's Department for Medical Services, Dr. Rai served as the Chief Executive Officer of the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital in Kisumu. According to a tribute shared by the hospital, Papa, as he was fondly known, pioneered the sickle cell zero movement and the establishment of a warrior support group. He is celebrated for facilitating the availability of bone marrow transplant services at the facility and other transformative infrastructure, including an oxygen plant that provided life-saving piping to wards during the COVID-19 pandemic. The president of the Kenya Medical Association, Dr. Simon Kigondu, also hailed Dr. Rai's contribution during his tenure as the chair of KMA Managed Healthcare Committee, where he steered a health reforms engagement which resulted in a landmark document that informed improvements in the services provided under the defunct NHIF, now known as the Social Health Authority, a legacy that is a sharp contrast to the unfortunate fate that has now befallen the late senior doctor and county advisor, who dedicated his career in making health accessible and affordable to all.
The health system and the government has led our colleague down. That it is happening to a high-level professional is an even bigger indictment on our system. It doesn't work. We have been to SHA, and SHA told us clearly that their policy does not allow them to take care of somebody who falls sick when outside of the country.
The county government of Kisumu has committed to support the family to meet the expenses of repatriating Dr. Rai's body back to Kenya. This, however, is subject to the settlement of the outstanding bill of about 17 million shillings, which the family says remains their biggest nightmare.
This person was on official duty for county and for government. What is the responsibility that is taken here? Is this money too big for us as Kenya government, as county government, to clear and sort everything out?
Their hope is pegged on well-wishers to support them bring Dr. Rai home and accord him a decent burial.
The family can't understand how you can work so hard. No, it's bad.
Safina Chengoma, Citizen TV.
Our sympathies go out to the family. We take a break, but here is what's coming up on the other side of the Monday Report. Covering the last journey of a political titan in Kenya. A reporter's account after this break. Thank you for staying with us on the Monday Report. The year 2025 has been an eventful one, with key political events taking place, including the death of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the Gen Z-led anti-government protests, and the high-octane by-elections in November. Our political affairs reporter, Emmanuel To, looks back into the year that he covered in the following report.
This was the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga's last public engagement, his last dance, quite literally. The higher statement, Vijana Fire.
Jeshi fire! Vijana fire! Mwe tayari kwa wanajeshi wa baba.
Maelfu ya wafuasi wake kutoka kwa matabaka tofauti tofauti. This was the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga's last public engagement, his last dance, quite literally. I was one of the journalists who covered his last assignment, and this is where he actually was meeting some members of the National Assembly of the ODM party just before the House could resume from a short recess. I could feel that Raila's voice was not the normal one. It sounded a bit feeble.
ODM! Asante sana, you may be seated.
And I remember him making a speech, a 24 minutes long speech, which by the time he was done, I knew it would have really caused a lot of ripples.
Who's told you that ODM will not have a candidate in 2027? Who's told you?
Sad to say I'm on my way, won't be back for many days.
I felt numb when I heard about the demise of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. The weather was actually gloomy, and it was actually in consonance with the mood of the day.
Manuel, good morning. It's good to see you. How's the mood like where you are?
In the next hour and 30 minutes or so, the body of the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga will be touching down here at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. I was with my colleague Stephen Leto, and he was actually looking very distraught. And I remember that's when Leto received a call when we were just having some lunch breakfast thing. And Leto received a call from my boss, Linus Kaikai, and he was told to fly, that he was going to India. And Leto actually left me a bill. And I think Leto, you'll one day actually sort this one soon.
Good morning, route 001, final runway 06.
It was calm before the eruption that came after, when the body of Raila Odinga touched down aboard the RAW 001 at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And the only thing I remember is seeing twigs all over the runway. And I couldn't understand how those people made their way into the being received. And the repatriation ceremony was supposed to take place there. I remember seeing the program and going through it, and it was not followed because it was not possible to do it. I remember seeing the CDF General Chaska Hariri trying to talk to these supporters who were actually wailing, holding the casket that was carrying Raila's remains, actually asking for a chance for the military to continue with the process of repatriating Raila's remains, but that was not possible. President William Ruto, who was actually supposed to be actually witnessing that, could not come out of the main presidential pavilion or the VIP section that was just a few meters from there. On a normal day, the journey from the runway or the JKIA main entrance to the gate would normally take about 3 to 5 minutes without traffic. On that day, it took 3 hours. You can imagine, because of the commotion, the people, the sea of humanity that was there, and the members of the police actually remember a helicopter hovering and actually escorting the body, but trying to actually create some way to talk to those people who are there to let the body move, because there were people waiting at the Moi International Sports Center Kasarani.
Uwanja wa kimataifa ama ukipenda uwanja wa kitaifa wa Nyayo.
On the day when the body of Raila Odinga was supposed to lay in state at the Nyayo National Stadium, as a journalist, I'm trained to keep my emotions away from my job, and I actually tried to do that until the time when I was interviewing the Member of Parliament for Likoni, Mishi Mboko. And I remember Mishi has this way, this thing, that whenever she speaks, it gets a bit emotional.
Hiyo ni mafunzo kwa sisi wa Kenya ya kwamba tuwe na Kenya moja, tuwe na upendo.
Asante sana, poleni sana, na tutarudi baadaye, lakini kwa sasa naambiwa nirejeshe studio kwa sababu. And I remember getting overwhelmed, and my colleague Melito Letenges was luckily around, and he continued with the interview. And of course, I remember also taking some pictures just to remember that day. At the Mamboleo Stadium, Jomo Kenyatta Mamboleo Stadium in Kisumu, you could feel that this was someone who was loved in life and in death. That's when I realized that music could actually be used to calm down tensions, to calm down people who are wailing, because the DJ Spider, who was on the decks, was dropping song after song, a hit after hit of those songs that Raila actually loved during demonstrations, during the campaign periods 2007, 2013, 2017 and 2022. And after the event, there was a lot of wailing, there was a lot of mourning. You could feel that the fatigue had started settling in. You could even see from our eyes when we were reporting. It was a bit tiring to be on for all those hours. The body now moves to Bondo, where he'll be interred tomorrow with the military leading the way. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV from the Mamboleo Stadium, Kisumu. But the most important part of this is that I will really miss, as a journalist, the aura that Raila brought, the capacity of him to move masses, the ability to reinvent himself that many politicians are still grappling to get, especially those probably in the opposition. And of course, this goes without saying that the statement that Raila actually used to have, the higher statement, Vijana Fire.
Jeshi about 10. Jeshi fire. Vijana fire. Vijana fire. Vijana fire. Vijana fire. Vijana fire.
Raila was a good historian. As a journalist, I really benefited from those storytelling sessions that he used to do, and that really enriched the context of how we used to report. And so we really miss Baba Raila Amolo Odinga, and may his soul rest in eternal peace. And this will be the first Christmas and the festive season without him, and it is different. The other event that actually stood out for me again this year was the coverage, the reportage of the by-elections. I was privileged to cover the Mbere North by-election in Embu County. There's a guy with a pistol. Those are shots. Exactly after 5 p.m., around 5:20 thereabout, we saw a convoy of fuel guzzlers carrying some people who actually covered, I think they were goons, who were covered all over their faces. And some actually saw one of the members of parliament who was among those people who came there. And I remember there was a guy that actually met there who was tear gassed, and he was chewing miraa, or I don't know what he was chewing. And I tried talking to him to ask him to tema jaba, because it's called jaba, so that I could hear him clearly, so that we can hear him clearly. And I remember him getting very agitated. Labda ukitema jaba utaongea vizuri.
Acha kuniambia vile nitafanya ndugu yangu. Tutakosana mimi na vile hujaiona, ona. Ni 6 jioni na unaambia mtu ateme jaba ati jumna muinterview kwa news.
Even the person with the taxin does not have the right to tell this taxin when to come out.
And I want to take this opportunity to apologize to him for telling him to tema jaba. Na hii si story ya jaba. And we want to wish you a new year full of God's blessings, and we hope to see a more prosperous year 2026.
What a compelling story by Emmanuel Toh. Really moving, Raila Odinga's last dance, and then ending on a light note with the jaba. I will be honest, I discovered today what taxin is, and that it was interesting hearing that guy react and say even that the taxin? Is it the taxin that tells you when it is time to remove it? If you don't know what the meaning of taxin is, you want to stay tuned, because Muraya Kariuki enlightened me on what it is. I will tell you what it is a little bit later as I look at some of your feedback already. Engineer Lazaro. My table is moving. Wakasiaka, I see you've already tweeted in response, so we'll get into that at the end of this news hour. But before then, 3 weeks after his disappearance and a week after his body was found at the Nairobi funeral home, the family of Derek Omanga Tom, a digital marketing manager and a former intern at the Royal Media Services, is demanding for the arrest of the people who last interacted with him before his death. Derek's body was found near Roysambu, and that is the Roysambu roundabout, on December the 6th at around 2 a.m. After an evening of merrymaking in the company of 2 people, the 3 were captured on CCTV footage at a liquor store along Ngong Road. Gatete Njoroge has more.
This CCTV footage from Wine Tales along Ngong Road captures Derek Omanga's last moments on December 5th, the day he went missing. At 10:37 p.m., Derek is captured going upstairs while holding a lady's hand, while another man in a cap follows them closely. In the second clip, he staggers and supports himself on a lady outside the entrance of a liquor store. Once inside, he engages the seller to pass over his bag, which he seemingly had left behind. She opens the door and hands over the bag to Derek's friend. He insists on checking the bag first before leaving. The lady obliges, and Derek takes the bag to ensure everything is intact. Meanwhile, the guy in a cap is filling a cup with a drink and handing it over to the lady. The 3 leave. This time round, the guy in cap leads the way. He is followed by the lady friend who is carrying Derek's bag, and Derek, who appeared tipsy. The guy in a cap is again seen giving the lady a drink in a cup. This was the last time the digital marketing manager at a tour and travel agency was captured alive. Reports indicate the party was moved to a club along Thika Road, where the lady friend excused herself after she reportedly felt unwell and went home. She allegedly left Derek in the company of the guy in a cap, who had reportedly joined them along Ngong Road when the 2 were partying.
Inakuaje wewe mtu amekununulia vinywaji kutoka saa 12 mpaka saa 4 ya usiku, amekulipia bili sote, alafu unaenda umwache na mtu ambao hujui uende? Kama umesensi tencha, kwa nini ungeondoka na yule mlikuwa na yeye?
3 hours later, Derek's lifeless body was discovered near Roysambu roundabout. Police who moved the body to Nairobi funeral home indicated that the 25-year-old was an accident victim, a narrative that the family rejects.
Nilikuwa huko tarehe 9 sikumpata. Imekuwaje tena amepatikana tarehe 6 huko? Nimerudi huko hiyo ilikuwa the 3rd time nikiwa city. Sasa nikashindwa inawezekana aje alikuwa huko hizo siku zote, simpati na siendi peke yangu.
A post-mortem exercise revealed the cause of death as multiple injuries due to blunt force trauma. The report, however, did not conclusively state whether the injury was as a result of an accident or human attack.
Human rights at RSK watusaidie tupate haki, because tunaona kwa sababu ya unyonge atupelekwe vile na stahili. Hii kesi saizi ingekuwa tangu mtoto apatikane, hata watu wangekuwa wamekuwa arrested.
Kasarani Sub-County Criminal Investigations boss Alois Mboya says his officers have recorded statements from 3 friends who last interacted with the deceased. Detectives have also summoned more people who were in communication with Derek before he died. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Protests as political expression in Nyeri. The story of an extraordinary political year in central Kenya after the break. Thank you for staying with us on You Did, because we have another My Story coming up, this time from Central Kenya. And Central Kenya had never witnessed anything like it, not even the struggle for multi-party democracy. We're talking about large-scale demonstrations that not only paralyzed businesses, but also ruined lives, some of them permanently. Kamau Mwangi, yes, and this is his story, takes a look at the events of this year in Nyeri that came with an unusual attack on journalists and the setting of a new world record for anyone to ever hug a tree.
Now, for every journalist, it is normally their hope that each morning they set out to venture into the field, they will get back home to their households or to their houses safe and sound. But on the 7th of July this year, during the Saba Saba protests, that almost never became for some of the journalists here in Nyeri County, I included. And I remember protesters started engaging with the police at around 10 a.m., heading towards 1, 2, 3 p.m. As it is normally our duty, we started doing our live links very early. We could see the protesters gathering. What came as a shock was around 12:31 p.m. when I was on my Inoro TV link, and the protesters and the police almost looked as if they had come to an understanding that they would continue with the protest, of course, in a structured manner. And as I was concluding that particular live link, this group of young men that had been released now by the police to follow a certain route that they had agreed upon came towards where we are. And the last thing I remember was some of them coming to where we are and asking whether they will be allowed to speak. But then again, because of the guidelines that had been given then of how we would cover the protests, I decided not to engage them at that particular time. And this is where they became rowdy. I remember trying to pull my microphone from one of them that had already snatched it. And as they began the attack, they first pounced on my video journalist, James Maina, who had his live view on his back, as well as the camera itself. I remember I was holding the tripod, and they tried to snatch it from me. I was beaten on my back because at this particular moment, a colleague of ours from another TV station had come trying to talk them down, and they also pounced on her, Wahu Ngoge. And I remember this moment was quite fast because even by the time the police were coming to check on us, already we had suffered a few blows. Our videographer had been beaten, roughed up quite a lot, and he had suffered injuries on his back. And looking back, this one has remained to be one of the toughest days on the job for the 9 years that I have been a journalist. Now, 2025 was one of those years where Nyeri experienced some of its worst protests, and this is in relation to the businesses that got destroyed or rather were robbed. The June 25 protest that had been embarked on as a commemoration of what happened last year during the June 2024 protests, it all started as a very calm day, same as what happened on 7/7. And at around 4 p.m. when attempts to loot that particular supermarket affiliated to the Kieni Member of Parliament failed, the protesters flocked downtown Nyeri, where there is Naiva supermarket, and this supermarket fell victim to irate protesters who were hell-bent on robbing a shopping complex. And I remember receiving images from locals of motorbikes ferrying fridges, ferrying washing machines, and bearing the mood at that particular time. We could not move closer to the scene because to the police then, there was no friend or foe. And on this day as well, I remember Karatina was a no-go zone for journalists because earlier that morning, we had received calls from our sources saying that the media was not welcome in Karatina, probably because of what had been planned by those that were to engage in protests. And as a culmination of the same, deaths were reported. The police reported 2 deaths in Karatina, and one was of one Ken Ouma, a young man who was shot while exercising at the 3rd floor of a gym in Karatina town, as police tried to control the protesters that had sort of turned rowdy. The other event that really stood out for me was that attempt by 22-year-old Trufena Muthoni to break her own record of hugging a tree for 48 hours and setting a new record for being the only human being on the planet to ever hug a tree for 72 hours. We would even go there at night, trying to film, trying to get to understand where she was with the challenge, and seeing how Kenyans came out in support of her on the 3rd day was respect. And I remember my cameraman and I trying to film that moment, the countdown moment. Is one of those events that really stood out for me in 2025.
Some compelling storytelling there by Kamau Mwangi. Wacha niseme vijana fire. Emmanuel Soa and Kamau Mwangi, you have done us proud. Kamau, sorry about those injuries that you sustained with your cameraman. And thank you for bringing us those stories throughout the year. Anything in that report that stood out to you, Emmanuel?
Yeah, well, obviously being in that situation where you're reporting on something that dangerous, you know, it reminds us of how dangerous it is to be a journalist sometimes, but glad they made it out safe.
All right, what's coming up on the sports?
In the sports news, yes, we have a report coming looking back at Chan 2024 and seeing the lessons learned and what we should put into coming up to 2027. We have that report coming up after the break. Welcome back to the program. My name is Emmanuel Ndungo. Time for the sports news. For the first time in history, Kenya co-hosted the Chan tournament together with neighbours Uganda and Tanzania. The biennial tournament exposed Kenya to the international stage, giving a glimpse of what to expect ahead of AFCON 2027. Our sports reporter, Lukman Mahmood, takes us through the challenges and lessons learned from that Chan tournament.
Reality, where motherland Kenya hosted the second biggest football tournament in Africa, Chan. Nairobi was to host at least 2 groups together with the knockouts and the final match.
For Chan 2024 gave Kenya an opportunity to be back on the continental stage in terms of football. And because of that ability to host Chan, we were able to parade and inspire the talents.
The local organizing committee, led by veteran football administrator Nicholas Musonye, had to burn the midnight oil to deliver a successful Chan.
The members of the LOC and the secretariat, they came out strongly to deliver a very successful event, despite so many other issues, underlying issues, that didn't come out in the open. There were a lot of experiences that were not very good, and the expenses were also very good. So the general view is that the LOC and the secretariat, they worked very well, despite some caps here and there, to deliver Chan.
Despite having a myriad of challenges in the early stages, such as crowd management, which forced CAF to reduce the number of fans attending matches in Kenya, the LOC and the government as a whole overcame the situation to ensure Kenya don't lose the privilege hosting the final match in Nairobi.
We had great lessons. Initially we didn't know that it was going to be so exciting, and the numbers, for Kenyans. That is why you see in the middle, we had to set up fan zones across Nairobi, and that has given us a very key lesson in the future to ensure that we plan in advance crowd management.
With AFCON 2025 ongoing in Morocco, the one-month-long championship left the LOC with lessons as Kenya is eyeing early preparations ahead of the AFCON 2027.
For the next AFCON, we need to do a lot about security. If there's a budget to be put aside for security, it must be done as soon as possible. To educate our people, to train our people, to train our security officers, to train our stewards and all that. It needs thorough preparation to safeguard the image of Kenya as far as security is concerned. And remember, besides Kasarani being around Babadoko, Roysambu, Talanta is equally in a very hot spot. We have Kipra, we have Takoreti, we have Mukomoini down there. All these people are football people. We have Kawangware. All these people are football people, and they will want to come and see Talanta, how it is.
The government on their side are fast-tracking the stadia with Talanta City Stadium, which was renamed to Raila Odinga International Stadium, set to be ready by early 2026.
Kwa hivyo tunavyoenda mbele kuandaa dimba la Afrika AFCON 2027, tuna masomo mengi ambayo tumejifunza na tutaweza kuyatilia maanani, haswa matayarisho ya miundo msingi, na ndio maana hivi sasa tuko mbioni kuhakikisha kwamba Talanta Stadium imeweza kukamilika. Miundo msingi zaidi itakamilika hapo Disemba na pengine baadaye mwezi wa pili mwaka ujao.
The national team Harambee Stars, who were knocked out in the quarterfinals of CHAN, will also have early preparations as confirmed by the Football Kenya Federation.
We've agreed on some deliverables that have to be achieved by a certain time. We are going to start our preparations early. We are going to be more meticulous in terms of our execution. We are going to make very radical changes moving forward in regards to how we operationalize our strategy and our work.
Neighbors Uganda and Tanzania, who are in AFCON 2025, are also fast-tracking stadium development ahead of hosting the tournament for the first time. After successfully hosting CHAN 2024, the local organizing committee is optimistic that the foundation laid will be helpful